Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. Israel eliminates Hezbollah's chief of staff, Haitham Tabatabai. The IDF steps up enforcement of Hezbollah and Hamas' respective violations of their ceasefires with Israel. Jerusalem welcomes U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to designate the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. Jerusalem refuses to stand idly by as its enemies, to include the Islamist Hamas in the Gaza Strip, Hezbollah in Lebanon, or any other terror group or state actors operating with the aim of harming Israel. Speaking at his weekly cabinet meeting, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu mainly focused on the repeated violations by the Islamist Hamas terror organization of President Trump's so-called 20-point plan, while also stressing explicitly that Jerusalem's political leadership is responsible for Israel's security.
מאז הפסקת האש, החמאס לא מפסיק להפר אותה, ואנחנו פועלים בהתאם. היו כמה וכמה ניסיונות שלו לחדור לשטח שלנו מעבר לקו הצהוב, לנסות לפגוע בחיילינו. אנחנו סיכלנו את זה בעוצמה רבה, וגם הגבנו וגבינו מחיר כבד מאוד. זה הרבה מחבלים שחיסלנו, וגם מחבלים ששבינו מהמנהרות ברפיח. כל הדיבורים שאנחנו חייבים לקבל אישורים על כך מגורם כזה או אחר הם פשוט שקר מוחלט. אנחנו פועלים בלא תלות באף אחד. ההנחיות, הפעולות המיידיות לסיכול ההתקפות נעשות על ידי צה"ל באופן אוטומטי. לגבי התגובות זה עובר דרך שר הביטחון ומגיע בסופו של דבר אליי, ואנחנו מחליטים ללא תלות בשום גורם. וכך זה צריך להיות. ישראל אחראית לביטחונה.
It is important to emphasize that per President Donald Trump's 20-point plan, quote, within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. Now, while the ceasefire entered into effect on October 10 of last month, the remains of 3 hostages remain in Hamas captivity to date. Moreover, Hamas terror operatives continue to open fire at IDF positions and personnel, forcing repeated retaliatory responses in accordance with the details stipulated in the 20-point outline.
Ever since that day, the terror group has repeatedly violated the agreement, from not returning all of our hostages to attacking our soldiers and killing 3 of them in the Gaza Strip under this plan, to crossing the IDF's yellow line, posing an immediate threat to our soldiers, to stealing humanitarian aid and brutalizing their own people inside of the Gaza Strip. This is Hamas, the terror organization who said they were committed to this plan, has continued to prove otherwise. This underscores the importance of why Hamas must be disarmed and Gaza demilitarized, as outlined in the 20-point plan.
Repeated attacks against IDF forces have been recorded over the weekend, to include Hamas terror operatives surfacing out of subterranean infrastructure in areas under IDF control, which triggered exchanges of fire.
On Friday, 15 terrorists emerged from a tunnel at 2 different locations in eastern Rafah, where our IDF forces were operating to dismantle remaining underground terror infrastructure there. Now, at that time on Friday, the IDF apprehended 5 of the terrorists and eliminated 6 of them. After 24 hours of locating the remaining terrorists that emerged from that tunnel who were hiding out in Rafah, all 17 terrorists who attempted to flee the underground terror infrastructure were accounted for, with 11 terrorists eliminated and 6 terrorists apprehended and transferred for further questioning. Now, on Saturday, an armed terrorist crossed into the IDF's yellow line with a vehicle and situated himself on a humanitarian road where aid enters southern Gaza. The terrorists started firing at IDF soldiers deployed in the nearby area. The incident was caught on an IDF drone and can be seen as clear as day. A terrorist with a hoodie on is located on this humanitarian road outside of a parked vehicle, and he begins shooting in the direction of where our soldiers are located.
The IDF immediately responded to the attack by the Hamas terror operative by eliminating him, while in addition, the IDF launched a retaliatory response against Hamas terror operatives, eliminating 5.
Israel eliminated 5 senior Hamas terrorists, including the head of supply in Hamas's production headquarters. This person was a central source of knowledge in the organization's supply and production systems. Now, during the war, he also operated to transfer weapons from Hamas's headquarters to battalion and field commanders for use against IDF forces. Israel will not accept violations by Hamas under the ceasefire framework, and our IDF forces will continue to remain deployed in the Gaza Strip in accordance with the agreement. Israel will not rest until all of our hostages are home, the remaining 3 hostages, as they should be returned home for proper burial by now. The mediating countries must insist on the full execution of the framework and hold Hamas to its commitments to return all of our hostages.
Turning to Israel's northern front, where the IDF, guided by its intelligence directorate, struck in the area of Beirut and eliminated the terrorist Haitham Ali Tabatabai, Hezbollah's chief of general staff. Tabatabai was among Hezbollah's key operatives, who had, among others, bore responsibility for the terror attack against the U.S. Embassy in Beirut in 1983, in which 63 individuals were killed, to include 17 Americans. Moreover, Tabatabai also played a role in the 1983 U.S. Marine barracks, as well as the French barracks bombings, which claimed the lives of 241 U.S. service members and 58 French paratroopers, alongside dozens of Lebanese civilians. Meanwhile, over the course of the conflict with Hezbollah, as part of Iran's 7-front war against Israel, Tabatabai replaced Ibrahim Akil as chief of staff of Hezbollah, merely several months after Akil himself had replaced his predecessor, Fuad Shukr, who was also eliminated in response to Hezbollah's missile attack on the Druze village of Majd al-Shams, which had claimed the lives of 12 children.
לפני שעות אחדות, צה"ל חיסל את עלי טבטבאי, רמטכ"ל ארגון הטרור חיזבאללה. טבטאי הוא רב מרצחים. ידיו מגואלות בדם של ישראלים ואמריקנים רבים. ולא בכדי, ארצות הברית הציעה פרס כספי של $5 מיליון על הראש שלו. טבטאי שימש כמפקד בכיר בכוח רדואן, זה הכוח שהתכונן לכבוש את הגליל ולשחוט הרבה מאזרחינו. לאחרונה הוא הביא את חידוש המאמצים של חיזבאללה להתחמש מחדש. זה כמובן לאחר המכות הקשות שחיזבאללה ספג במבצע הביפרים בפגיעה במאגרי הטילים שלו, וכמובן בחיסול נסראללה. אני מודה לצה"ל ולכוחות הביטחון שביצעו היום פעולה מקצועית, מדויקת ומוצלחת.
Prime Minister Netanyahu continued by re-emphasizing Jerusalem's policy vis-à-vis the Iranian proxy Hezbollah in Lebanon.
המדיניות שאני מוביל ברורה לחלוטין. תחת הנהגתי, מדינת ישראל לא תאפשר לחיזבאללה לבנות את כוחו מחדש, ולא נאפשר לו לחזור להוות איום על מדינת ישראל. אני מצפה מממשלת לבנון לממש את ההתחייבות שלה, לפרק את חיזבאללה מנשקו, כי רק כך יתאפשר לכל אזרח בלבנון עתיד טוב יותר, ורק כך תוכל להתקיים שכנות טובה, בטוחה, בין ישראל ללבנון.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu further seized the opportunity to congratulate U.S. President Donald Trump for his decision to designate the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization and highlighted Jerusalem's intention to follow suit in further enhancing its own designations against all organizations affiliated with the Islamist network.
בהזדמנות הזאת אני רוצה גם לשבח את הנשיא טראמפ על ההחלטה שלו להוציא אל מחוץ לחוק ולהגדיר את ארגון האחים המוסלמים כארגון טרור. זה ארגון שמסכן את היציבות ברחבי המזרח התיכון וגם מעבר למזרח התיכון. ולכן מדינת ישראל כבר הוציאה חלק מהארגון אל מחוץ לחוק, ואנחנו עובדים להשלים את הפעולה הזאת בקרוב.
Turning to Washington, D.C., where U.S. President Donald Trump, in response to a question by a Lebanese reporter, acknowledged that Hezbollah is a big problem for Lebanon.
I think that Hezbollah has been a problem in Lebanon, big problem. We're working with Lebanon, we're working with everybody. We actually have now, for the first time, peace in the Middle East after 3,000 years, and now we're going to refine it, and I think you're going to see some very positive things happen.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to also thank you if you are a supporter of TV7 Israel, which is exclusively donation-based, since your donation is essential in helping us produce our daily news updates from here in Jerusalem. If you haven't yet supported TV7 Israel, please consider doing so. You can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, as ever, pray for our brothers and sisters facing persecution globally, along with prayers for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hessen wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.